Streakers, it is good to be with you today. It's Jeff and Jamie, and we are here in Georgia on a very rainy
day.
In fact, we have, what is it, Hurricane Sandy? Well,
Sally.
now Sally.
Tropical depression, tropical storm.
Tropical storm.
Rain Sally.
is coming. The bottom fell out. And we are here with a very special guest, which we are very excited about.
Excited.
And we wanted to have this guest on our show for quite some time.
For a really long time. I'm excited.
And
this is going to be
how
fun.
come you've wanted to have him on
I've
the
been
show?
following his Instagram for a couple years. And so I'm excited to talk.
So we are excited to introduce you, and not that you need any introduction, Talan, but Talan David, who's with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. This is fun. Seriously, I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
I mean, your blog posts, your podcast, and some of the things that you've been doing are absolutely fantastic. And Jamie, being one of your original followers?
Yeah, one of the OG followers. Jamie has been
followers.
there from, I think, the beginning of my journey on Instagram and travels and all that stuff. So,
which is fun.
Which has been how many years now?
I started doing that about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years is when I started traveling. I started doing the video and photo 5 years ago.
So what was the first place that you traveled to? Like, what got you?
The first place, I think it was Hawaii.
Okay.
The first branded content video was in Hawaii for a company called Bang's Shoes. So
Okay.
I decided to live for a month in Hawaii.
How
And
fun.
so 2 weeks in Kauai and 1 week or 2 weeks in Oahu. And I just parked my car on the side of the road and set up my hammock in between two trees.
No way.
And that's how I started, because I didn't have the money, or they didn't really pay for any accommodations. I was kind of just trying to get myself out there.
You seriously slept in a hammock overnight for a month in
for
Hawaii?
For a month. And then I met friends the second half in Oahu who let me stay in their house.
Okay.
Now, so just back up a little bit for me. How did you get to Hawaii? I mean, what was it? Did you see something? Was it just like all of a sudden you wanted to be in Hawaii? I mean,
Yeah, so I started off doing wedding videos.
Okay.
Right.
And so from wedding videos, I had a little bit saved up, and I was like, I always want to go to Hawaii, and I don't want to do wedding videos forever. So I'm going to see if I can reach out to a brand that I can create content for in Hawaii. So there's cheap flights. I booked those, and then I started
and by the way,
creating
just
there.
speaking of the wedding videos, we are forever kicking ourselves because Talan, right up front, we had our oldest daughter get married, and
Yep.
he offered to do the wedding video for us at his then beginner rates, which are not beginner rates anymore whatsoever. But we are kicking ourselves because we didn't do it.
I know. I don't know what my problem was. It was my first wedding, my first planning, and I just wasn't thinking.
I don't think it was your problem. I think it was my problem.
Yeah, it was Jeff's fault.
Yeah. Anyway, so you got the wedding videos going. You then you saw it. You went to Hawaii, and
So I created a video for Bang's Shoes, and they loved it. And I was like, okay, this could be something. I could start doing more branded content that's featured and exclusive to travel. So I started reaching out to different companies, sending them my reels and what I've done. And then from there, companies started to reach out.
how did you overcome some of the things? Some of the times when you look at that, overcoming some of the fear of rejection. Did you have that at all, or were you just like, look, I've got to survive, and so I got to go out there and get this done?
Especially by the people around me,
Yeah.
because I grew up doing, football and baseball and different things. And to say I'm just going to start doing video was totally out of my realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the people around me, I had roommates who would joke with me saying, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, what are you
Can't
doing?
make a living doing that.
I was in full-time school on scholarship at Utah State.
Yeah.
And so I had to balance the
Were you
two.
on a sports scholarship, or
No,
were you
so
on?
I was an ambassador for the
Oh,
university.
that's right,
Right.
ambassador.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just involvement based.
Okay.
So I was really busy doing that. And so at night, I would spend time doing homework. Once I got done with that, from midnight to 2 a.m., I would be learning about video. To
Really?
prove them wrong, because I didn't like them saying I couldn't do something.
That's why I think I started following, honestly, is because the pictures that you were posting were really good. And then all
Now,
of a
was it
sudden-
just photos, or was it video too that he was
It was
posting?
video too.
Okay.
It was video too. But
Yeah.
I remember with pictures, and then I would start to follow the videos too, as you would start to do more of them.
Yeah.
And so, because you went to, was it Fiji?
Yeah, so
For the
Fiji,
water?
I was tagged in a post by a friend,
Uh-huh.
and it was called the Vata Project
Okay.
at the time. And what they do is they go and they take the proceeds from their clothing company, and they go and build watersheds so that they can collect the rainwater and have fresh water in rural villages across the South Pacific.
Really?
So a friend tagged me in a post saying, we're looking for a videographer. Send us your reel. And it's pretty much a trade trip. So you get to go to Fiji for free, and in exchange, you make us
So
some
they pay
content.
all your expenses,
Everything.
food, sleeping arrangements,
Yep.
travel, all of that stuff.
Zero out of pocket. So I just have to exchange
But you have to shoot and provide them the video and so
the
forth.
whole time. So we did that in Fiji for 2 weeks.
Oh, that is awesome. Which, let me just pause right here and welcome all of our fellow streakers. We just started right in with Talan. We did not welcome anyone.
We did. Welcome.
And one of the things the reason why not only were we interested in Talan, but Talan is also a streaker. And that is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later. In fact, it may not even get to this podcast. We may be a couple of podcasts down where we talk about also the journey into streaking. But before we get there, I think it's important to, like what we've been doing here, we've been talking with Talan just a little bit about his journey from when he graduated from high school,
Yep.
and then to university. And did you graduate from university before you went to Hawaii, or was that during? Or
That was my sophomore year.
your sophomore
So
year.
this was while doing
okay.
school.
While doing
And I
school.
just graduated this last December. So I've been doing this while simultaneously trying to do school.
Really?
Yeah.
So would you take a semester off of school and go, or how would you do that? How
I
did you
took
manage
one
that?
semester off because I had a lot of projects that were out of the country. And so I didn't want to try to balance the two at the
Right.
time. But
Right.
I took a lot of online classes from the university where I didn't have to be physically there for attendance.
Pre-COVID
Okay.
days, you were taking online classes.
I was doing online
You were
courses.
the OG
COVID before.
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
You were doing COVID before COVID was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to have any in-class requirements, which helped me so I could be somewhere else and be filming, which helped.
So you would film what during the day, night, whatever, and then complete your coursework if you had an online class or something like that.
Yep.
Throughout the day, basically.
Yeah. So I tried to make a schedule where for some semesters I'd only have classes Tuesday and Thursday so that I could have Friday and Monday off. So 4-day weekends. And then I'll try to schedule all my stuff.
So during this time, as you were doing this, how did you feel? Get a little bit into, we talk about the growth model and growing and progressing and so forth. How did you, as you were doing that, I mean, was that conscious to you that you were wanting to grow and progress in these areas? Or was it just like, I'm just following my passions and my dreams?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I remember there was a moment where I had to decide between fun and work. And it was the BYU Utah State game. And it's a big rivalry game. And it ended up going into overtime and we won. And I missed it because I was filming in Colorado for a construction client,
Oh my
which
goodness.
isn't the most
Glamorous.
job.
That wasn't Fiji.
No, it
And
wasn't
that wasn't
Fiji.
Hawaii.
And so at that moment, I was like, this is something where I know this is helping me grow and I
Yeah.
have to sacrifice some things to get there. So that was one moment I remember of, I wish I could have gone back and done that. But at the same time, who knows where I would have been if I didn't put that to the side for a
So
second.
how did you decide to and I want to get a little bit into that as far as, because there was a point there where you had to say, I got to do work and not fun. I mean, a lot of people may choose the other way. I mean, especially, at the time in life where you were, the age that you were, you decided though to go with work. And so what made that click? I mean,
It was the connections beforehand. Every video I've done led to another video. And
Okay.
so I knew that if I were to do one video, then I would get something else after that. But if I didn't do that intermediate
one.
step, I wouldn't get to that next step. Because the Fiji video, that set off my travel career.
Okay.
Some person saw that was based in New Zealand. And then from there, I was filming Unplugged Fiji for a luxury travel company. So my first experience in Fiji was for people where you're sleeping on the floor in rural villages. The second time to Fiji was I was being flown in a private jet to a private island
no way.
to film for these clients and doing luxurious things.
Okay.
So if I wouldn't have done that first step, I wouldn't have gone that second step.
That
So I
second
kind of
step.
understood that early on, that if I
Yeah.
were to do one video, it would lead to another.
Okay.
So I didn't want to miss those opportunities.
Which I love. That's sometimes my favorite thing is recognizing how important it is to do the two steps that are in front of us. Sometimes we want to know our whole plan, but we're very rarely given the whole plan, but we're almost always given the two steps in front of us.
Yeah.
So I love that you learned early, take those two steps and it'll provide the next two steps.
And there was probably a point where, I mean, to your point exactly, Jamie, as far as you probably had to take a couple of steps in the dark. I mean, where you were like, you know what? I don't know what this will lead to next.
I think sleeping in a hammock in Hawaii is a little bit in the dark. You
Really?
got the plane and thought, okay, well, here I am. I'm in Hawaii.
Even before that, when I decided to take the plunge into trying to do photo and video, it's not an inexpensive thing to get involved with.
Right.
There's an entry cost to get in.
Oh, yeah.
To get involved in photo and video. So I called my mom and I was like, hey, I'm going to take out a loan for I think it was $5,500.
Okay.
And I didn't have a job. Like, she's like, how are you going to pay for this? I was like, I just have a feeling that this is something I could be good at.
Right.
And she's like, no. And so I called back again. I was like, you know what? No matter what, I'm going to do this.
I'm doing it.
So she decided to get behind, and I had no credit. I'm a young kid in college. She co-signed. And from there, that big step is like, I have to make this work.
Right.
Right.
I have to make this work. And so I found ways to kind of.
So that $5,500, which is very close to my favorite number, which is 555. That's my very favorite number.
Jahangir Khan's number.
Jahangir Khan's number.
Jahangir Khan is the guy in squash from
Who
the book.
won 555 matches in a row, the most in all of sport, in case you were wondering. Anyway, and no one knows about it in the United States because he is not a household name in the United States, but in Europe and all throughout basically Europe and India and everywhere else, he's a household name. Oh, absolutely. He would be, I would say Jahangir Khan there would be like, LeBron James here.
Okay. He's their LeBron James.
Big
You didn't
name.
think I would come up with one, did you?
I didn't know.
You were,
I was curious to see who Jahangir Khan was going to be compared
yeah,
to.
I would say like LeBron James. I'd go Michael
For
Jordan.
squash.
Maybe Michael
He's
Jordan.
the LeBron James of squash.
Of squash, exactly. Anyway, whoa, that went way
Yeah,
down.
you went down a
number.
rabbit hole on that
Yeah,
one.
so the $5,500. All right, you pulled that out, and that was is that how you bought your equipment?
Yeah. So I started off with the camera. I started off with a simple microphone.
How did you know what equipment to get? Just a little side note on that. I mean, were you studying it, and did you just go out there and say, you know what, I need this?
I did research upon because there's tons of different camera brands.
Yeah.
I knew that I wouldn't be able to go terribly expensive, and I wanted to get the best deal. So I ended up going with Sony. And so I kind of figured out what I needed and what that would cost. And that's where I developed I needed 5,500.
Had you been introduced to people doing video? And that's why how did you, there must have been something that kind of piqued your interest in it.
I was walking around campus with some friends, and I just wanted to record my experiences.
Okay.
I didn't have any like examples of I didn't see like Instagram people doing it already. That wasn't what I thought I was even going to be doing.
Okay.
I just saw what we were doing was fun. And I
you're
wanted
like,
to
wanna
remember
record it
this.
and remember it.
I really don't like writing in my journal because I'm left-handed and it smears.
Yes.
Every time I write.
You know what that feels like,
Yes,
don't
I
you,
do.
Jim?
Yes,
And
I
so
do.
recording video was my way to get around that, as a way of
Okay.
documenting what I was doing.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And as I listened to what you were saying, you kind of had an informal streak going on. I mean, if you think about it, because when you think about a streak is about consistency. And what you had decided early on is I've got to be consistent in my video. If I don't do this video, I'm not going to get the next one or the next one. And so you look at that and say there was some consecutiveness to that allowed you to get even better. Because my guess is, without even having a streak or anything else, you were shooting video almost every day.
I would say I was learning about video every day.
Every day.
Okay.
And then I was trying to, every night after school, I would spend whatever amount of time I had to learn about video. And I was doing that. That would be a streak for sure. I did that for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I wish I had the app.
the streaking app
Yes.
where you could actually record.
Where I could record to see, how many days in a row did I
do
learn
that?
about video, and how did that help me in the end? Because I don't think I missed a day learning about it because I wanted to be good at it.
So, and you just said something very key, and absolutely one of the tenets of streaking is I want to be, from where I am currently to who I want to be. And you saw this future in front of you of, I want to be a videographer, a professional videographer. I mean, what am I, and I may be not saying it correctly. What do you think?
I just wanted to be good at it.
Okay.
I don't know if I wanted to be a professional videographer, but it was interesting as I started doing it more often. Everyone around me saw me as a professional videographer, where I didn't see myself as that, which was interesting because as I started to do these things more consistently, in other people's eyes, they saw that I was that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't where I wanted to be yet. So I thought that was really interesting that everyone saw me as I didn't see myself as that.
Right.
Yeah.
So inside of yourself, you saw a lot longer to go.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing that's interesting here is the whole idea that this was not a goal. I mean, it doesn't sound like you ever set a goal to reach for, like I'm going to produce 15 videos by this point in time, or I'm going to do this particular thing to be a videographer. It was truly, and it wasn't a habit, it was truly a streak. Now, you didn't know that's what it was at that point in time.
That's what it is. That's what I recognized it was then.
Yeah.
because it wasn't a goal. I want to do this many videos this year. I just wanted to do the things to prepare me for what I could be introduced to.
I think that is the coolest thing.
I do too. I love that.
Were you going to say something else? I thought.
No, I just want to hear more about the places you traveled. That's why I think I started following. It's because all of the videos and the pictures and because you say, you know, I didn't consider myself professional, but as I would watch those videos, I would be like, these are so good. Holy cow, this is awesome. And I'd text my kids and be like, I don't understand how he gets these pictures. Like, is he by himself and does he set it up on the tripod? Can you answer that? Like, were you by yourself often or did someone else take?
It depends on the trip.
Okay.
I have a tripod and I have to run really fast in that 10-second period where it's counting down.
Yes.
Or I set up where I take a picture of someone else.
Okay.
And I say, this is what I want. Here's a picture for you. Now get one
now
of me.
take the
Like a
same
trade.
picture of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's nice I'm married now, so it.
Yeah, now you've
I always
got
have a
That makes sense.
assistant.
And congratulations, by the way.
Yes.
Married for how long?
We've been married since May, so it's been a couple of months, and we did it in the middle of COVID. Which is a
Middle
whole
of
different
We're a COVID wedding.
experience.
Which that's something we could get into as well, which we may, but not right now.
Yes, that was an experience. All kinds of different.
The thing that I love about and the journey that we're kind of scoping out here is that you had seen someone you wanted to be, and then you started to do things intentionally, consciously, deliberately in order to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I love about streaking is it gives you the device to go from who you are to who you want to be in a conscious, intentional way. What do you think?
Yeah. And the thing that I love is that as we've studied this, we've recognized that some people do it. Like I'd say, Talan, you did it unconsciously. Like you were starting to follow those principles unconsciously already. And I love that what I've loved about streaking is that it's okay if you've done it unconsciously and didn't know you were doing it, because then that's what we wanted to ask too, is that you were still attracted to streaking. It was something that you're like, this is really cool. But then there's other people that may not do it so unconsciously or naturally.
Right.
And I love being able to have it laid out that we can learn. So those of us that aren't as naturally inclined to do it or to find these principles on our own, now it's like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do to become what I want to be.
Right. Because we looked at people like you, Talan, where you were doing it without really knowing that's what you were doing. Even though the growth was conscious for you, the process that you were following
just kind of seemed to come. You just did kind of what came naturally.
Because you're just that kind of elite, fantastic
that
type person.
I do think that there are aspects in everyone's life where they do this unconsciously. And that's why they're so attracted to streaking in the methodology. Because they're like, oh, I kind of understand this already.
Yeah.
But there's a familiarity to it.
Yeah, exactly. I think mine was video and photo.
Mm-hmm.
And someone else's, it's going to be something else. But they do things every day that they don't realize. It's the fun part is keeping a record of it to see, I am making this progress. I am doing these things. And so if I'm doing these things every day, I will eventually get there.
Right.
Being patient with yourself. But I think that's a common thing that people share is that they are consistent. They just don't realize it.
They don't realize, and sometimes don't realize that it's this laughably smallest thing that they're consistent in that's providing like for you. I mean, I just looked it's like you opened your computer or whatever it was that you were using at the time and researched it every day.
YouTube University.
Really?
Yeah. Pulling up YouTube and just trying to figure out one new thing. And I didn't have a streak but that would have been what I was doing every day is learn one new video concept or open YouTube once and type in video.
Type in videos.
That's what I was doing every day.
That is
so. Sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say, so continuing on your journey here, you bought the $5,500 worth of equipment, and that's when you flew to Hawaii.
So I did wedding videos.
Oh, wedding videos. That's right.
And so when I sent my reel, you could say, to Bang Shoes for Hawaii, I only had wedding stuff to show. I wasn't proud of that, and that's why they were so willing to go for it. We'll send you some shoes.
We'll give it a try.
But that's it.
We're not going to pay for you to come out here.
We're not going to pay for you. We're not going to. This is an experiment for you. And that was awesome of them to do that. But from there, I had something where I could then send later on. Yeah. Okay. So it was that small little step forward of, okay,
so
now
they didn't finance you to go to Hawaii.
Oh, no. That was I did that on my own budget.
You invested in yourself to be able to go out there and do that. Yeah. And I think that's important,
and you reached out to them and said, I would like to do this. And by basically picking a location of where you wanted to go. Yeah. That is so good. And it's amazing that you overcame any type of inhibition that you may have had. Was it nervous to pick up the phone or send the email or any of those things? Did you have that nervousness? I didn't want to be rejected. But at the same time, I knew if I didn't try, then I would never know
Right.
whether or not, like the worst thing they could say is no.
Right.
Then I'll move on to maybe someone else.
Something else.
Yeah.
Something else. But that desire to be good at what it was that you were doing drove you forward. And I think that's one of the things, when you have a yes that's bigger than your no's, you're going to go forward. I mean, you're going to do things that when that desire, when that yes is much bigger, it's going to.
And Talan said something interesting a few minutes ago that I picked up on, was that you had that desire that propelled you, but you said, oh, I wish I had known how many days in a row I had done that, because you said a lot of us are consistent, but by having that record, it motivates you to continue being consistent, where you're like, okay, I want to keep doing that. I want to keep this up.
Like my streaks now, I look at those and I say, I don't want to break this.
Yeah.
And it's combined with, this is who I want to be, but also I've done it for this long. Why would I stop now?
Why would I stop? So now you've kind of doubled that. You've got the desire to do it, but now you've got that record behind you that continues to propel.
Yeah.
That's really
and
cool.
Move forward.
Well, you know what? We're coming up on the end of this podcast, but we're not done yet, because we got to pick up in Fiji, and from Fiji on, and he's got some really interesting stories that happened in Fiji on the hut floor, as well as in some of these private jets that we've got going. But before we end today, the book is 4 days away from being published.
It is.
Or not published, but released. We're already published, but released. Can you believe that?
So exciting.
Oh, I know. We are absolutely all jealous.
And if you haven't ordered the book yet, I've talked, and we'll get into this on the next podcast. I've talked to Jeff and Jamie before about the book, and it wasn't until I read it that I was like, this is something that will change my life.
Yeah.
It seriously changed. Like, I was excited just from speaking to them, but I got a full concept of what streaking was after reading the book. So I recommend it to everyone.
And such a full concept that we brought him on board as our chief marketing officer, because he's that good.
Yeah. We need to tell him your Instagram page so people can follow your amazing videos.
What is your Instagram page?
So it's at Talan David, Talan David.
Awesome. So
And
he
it's
has
awesome.
he has a first name and a last name that could be a first name or a last name.
So every time
Yes.
I go to the doctor's office, they don't have my records because it's my first name is always mixed with my last name.
Exactly.
We need a
both
David
ways.
Talan. That would be me.
The other
me.
thing that's coming out is the application. The Streaking app will be released, and we are so excited for that. There is just it just took another leap forward this week, and we are. I mean, that is so exciting.
And you're going to love using it. You are just going to love having that. It becomes a part of your daily life.
It really does.
It's like this little rush of endorphins every time you get to be like, oh, I
just
did
got
that.
it done. I got it done. So if you would like to share with us your streaking story, we're going to pick up with Talan on the next podcast. And I think, again, very interesting stuff. We'll pick up on the next podcast. But if you'd like to reach out to us, any one of us, because we've got Jeffrey, Jeffrey, at streakingmastery.com.
Or Jamie at JAMI at streakingmastery.com.
Or
Talan at TALAN at streakingmastery.com.
all right. We appreciate all of you guys listening out there today, and look forward to having you on the next podcast. Until that time,
Keep streaking.
Become a better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that make a better you. A better you.